Stay calm. We are not joking. Follow these instructions and everything is okay. Put $10,000 into the bag. Use hundreds, 50s, and 20s. The next 4 lines were all underlined. It said, no fake money, no die packs, no alarms, no tricks. Stay calm. Do it now. That was it.
And that works?
Every single time. It was actually just work. I was in IT for a biochemical company, and we were looking to integrate that into the company. So we had a satellite office in San Diego, and on Boxing Day 1986, I was sent out there for what was supposed to be 2 weeks to oversee what system they have and how we could possibly integrate it back in the UK. And 2 weeks turned into 20 years.
Wow. Part of your journey in America also included starting a family
Yes.
with your partner. And that meant a lot of debt. Just tell us about the struggle to start a family and what that meant for you and your partner.
Yeah. My wife was married previously and had 3 children. And then, unfortunately, it was unfortunate for us, when she delivered her 3rd child, she had her last tube that she had it cut because she never anticipated getting divorced, let alone having any more children. So after her divorce, we got together. My wife said, "Oh, I know you really want a child, whatever it would take." And so although we tried naturally, obviously nothing was going to happen. So we were prime candidates for IVF. We were both young, fit, healthy people. My wife had carried 3 pregnancies to full term. So yeah, we were just obviously circumventing the fact that there was no tube. We were going to be ideal candidates for IVF. First time should be an absolute winner. 5 years and 9 full attempts later, that's when we finally got a success. But obviously at that time, insurance considered IVF to be experimental, and on top of that, elective. So it's not life-threatening. If you want it, you pay for it. So they didn't cover any of the procedural aspect or the medication. And so it was setting us back somewhere in the tune of around $10,000 to $15,000 for the procedure, plus all of the medication every time. And as I said, we did it 8 times, finally got a success on the 9th, but it took us 5 years.
Yeah, now that success is good news.
Yes.
But that's not the end of the story.
No, and you'd have thought that. I mean, the way we thought, oh, we finally got a success. We had our little girl who was so blessed. Her name was Angelique. And I thought, this is it. Now we can get on with our life and, the world is our oyster. But unfortunately, by the time we finally got to that end point, we had probably gone through about $250,000. And the financial devastation of that is what just basically brought us down. I was never able to basically get out of the hole that I had dug to achieve that success.
And when you're in debt, you are not rational.
Correct.
What did that mean for you?
Just stress all the time. We had bought a house that basically was beyond our means, but at the same time, where we found ourselves, the housing market had turned, and we found ourselves in a situation where we couldn't sell the house without still being in debt. We wouldn't have been able to sell the house, pay off the mortgage, and move forward. So I felt trapped. It was a beautiful house, but it was an ivory tower. And every single day, I was just struggling to pay the debts and just pay our living expenses. And so what precipitated everything before the bank robberies wasn't just, a couple of weekends or a month or 2. It was probably a good 2-3 years of constantly battling to just try and pay the bills. And I was working for a bank at that time, and even though I wasn't customer facing, I was a software engineer. I still had to go through all of the requisite bank training, and part of that was what to do in the event of a bank robbery. And it's not that there's my eureka moment. I thought, oh, that's what I'll do. But when the pressures built up, I don't know what it was, but there was some time that I just thought, you know what? I'm going to rob a bank. And the reason I say that is because the training made it very specified that you must do everything that is asked of you during that bank robbery. Give them the money, ultimately, just give them the money and facilitate them leaving. So I think because I knew that little piece of information, which I didn't know until that point, such that you don't need to threaten anybody, you don't need a weapon, you don't need to do anything. All you need to do is communicate, I would like the money. And so based with that little bit of knowledge, knowing that I didn't have to do anything which I would consider to be negative, let alone threatening it, because I knew I didn't have to do that. All I had to do was say, could I have the money,
Yeah.
please?
And then the insurance company picks up the rest.
Federally insured. See, yeah, federally insured, meaning it's not the bank's money necessarily. The government insures it. But that's the rub now is, oh yeah, when I took that money, yeah, it wasn't the bank coming after me. It was the feds. The FBI came looking for me.
Wow. So when you said to me that you worked in a bank, I thought, okay, robbing a bank. And I got the image out of my head of you putting a balaclava on and kind of a shotgun. And I thought, okay, so he kind of, robbed it from within. He did something to the IT systems.
I should have. That was my specialty, but I didn't.
So what did your bank robberies look like?
Sort of the old school thing in the sense that I did go in with a baseball cap, reflective sunglasses, but I robbed the bank by myself. I had two best friends that I'd met ever since I'd been in San Diego in 1986. One of them was the best man at my wedding, and my other best friend, the interesting thing about the two of them, one of them is a sergeant in the San Diego Police Department, and the best man at my wedding is the special agent in charge of the DEA. So I had no friends to assist me in this bank robbery.
Did you tell your partner about it?
No, I couldn't. And the reason I didn't, because I didn't want to burden her with that knowledge. Because if I told her, sweetheart, I've robbed a bank, even if it was just that one, I knew that every time we would be out, if my wife saw a police officer or saw a police car, she'd be thinking, is this the time they're coming to arrest my husband?
They're going to come and get you.
So based on that, I never told her. The first time that my wife Patrice found out about the bank robberies were when the FBI was standing in her bedroom telling her.
Wow. So okay, let's jump to that point. So you did this 12 times.
Yes.
And you put on a baseball cap, some reflective sunglasses, and you walked into a bank and you said what?
Yeah, I carried a motorcycle helmet.
Right.
So I carried a motorcycle helmet and I wore gloves, obviously, so that I wouldn't leave any prints. But I carried a motorcycle helmet to give the inference that I came on a motorcycle. But I didn't. I never used a motorcycle. But it was enough to throw the tellers off and subsequently the police. They were looking for a guy on a motorcycle. There were a couple of banks that when I was leaving, I'm driving away in either my BMW or my truck, and I see the police coming straight toward me, lights flashing, sirens blaring, and we passed like ships in the night.
What did you say to the teller?
I said nothing. You might notice I have a very distinct British accent. So I knew that if I spoke in the bank, that the teller would say, oh, and by the way, he's British. And so I made sure that I never said anything.
So you just went into the bank?
And I gave them a note. I printed, right before I went to rob the first bank, as I said, I was in IT, this thought came across my mind, oh, shoot, you got a very distinct accent. So I printed out on a little postcard-sized card, put it sort of portrait, and do you want me to tell you what it was on there? There's a few things I wrote on there. It's in the podcast. I tell you, if you go listen to the podcast, Time with Mr. Reed, that's in there. But just for your listeners right now, it said this. Stay calm. We are not joking. Follow these instructions and everything is okay. Put $10,000 into the bag. Use hundreds, 50s, and 20s. The next 4 lines were all underlined. It said, no fake money, no die packs, no alarms, no tricks. Stay calm, do it now. That was it.
And that works.
Every single time.
And I note the we at the beginning of that as well.
Ooh,
Again, the
very
illusion that you're not working on your own.
Correct.
So what got you in the end after bank number 12?
So after bank number 12, I put a lot of effort into getting a better job. And I managed to secure a better job with another software company, not a bank, that doubled, almost tripled the salary that I was making at the bank. So as such, what we decided to do, I then told my wife, "Oh, sweetheart, I think we need to sell this house." And my wife goes, "Oh, God, I'm so glad you said that. I hate this place," because we were trapped there. I was like, "Oh, I wish you told me that a year ago."
Before I'd robbed 12 banks.
Before I robbed 12 banks. So basically, at that point, we put the house on the market, and we were looking to downsize and everything. So by that time, I hadn't robbed a bank for 9 months, at which point the FBI had been actively looking for me because I was robbing a bank every single month because my bills come every month. And the problem the thing that it was, because I was only doing it by myself, I wasn't able to take the bank down. To take the bank down, you need to have one person at least control the people. One person goes to the vault and gets the money. I can't be in two places at once by myself. So unfortunately for me, I was only able to basically get whatever that teller had in their drawer. And again, I didn't want to cause a big commotion in the bank. So basically I came, I presented my note, the teller would give me whatever funds they have, I leave. That's how it would be. And how it all finally came down was the last bank I robbed was in June of 2001. Then obviously, and prior to that, I was robbing a bank every single month.
Yeah.
I did from June 2000 to June 2001. I robbed a bank every single month. So when I stopped robbing up the banks in June of 2001, everything was quiet. Then come September 2001, 9/11. Massive thing in the United States. There was a big announcement that obviously the FBI was now going to create this Department of Homeland Security. And all of the federal resources were really going to be used for counterterrorism and things like that. So because in my case, my crime was non-violent and I never hurt anybody, it really was dropped down on the hierarchy. So here comes March of 2002.
We're going to have to go in a minute because I'm running out of time. So it was in a sentence, what got you?
They sent out the best picture of me to every single bank in San Diego and LA County, and it was a teller at my bank that I'd been banking at for 15 years, saw the picture and made a joke. She said, "Oh my goodness, that looks like Reed." Everybody laughed, thinking, "Oh yeah, how funny. Oh, it looks just like Kate." Yeah, and they'd laugh and think, "Oh yeah, forget it." When they all went back to work, a new supervisor picked up the phone and called the FBI
called it in
and said, "I think I know who you're looking
Look,
for."
you went to Terminal Island Prison, and
Yes.
for that, we'll have to ask our listeners to listen to the podcast where you can find out more about Reed's experiences. It's such a fascinating story, and I think we have prefaced that really well, I think, and a big shout to your podcast, Time with Mr. Reed, where the story is gone into it a lot more detail, but also continues as well.
Yeah. It's only about 20%.
Reed
Holy
Domingo,
smokes.
thank you so much for speaking to us. The podcast, again, is called Time with Mr. Reed, and Series 1 is available to download and listen on all major streaming platforms, including Spotify. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kate.
And if you enjoyed that, you can listen to me, Kate Borsay, every evening, Monday to Thursday, 8 until 10 on the evening edition on Times Radio.